And so today what we're going to be doing is looking at how do we refresh our instruction for English learners with innovative tools. And sometimes the tools are innovative and sometimes it's how we use the tools that are innovative. So how can we take things that we have, like free resources online, the technology that we already have, the knowledge that we have and our students have, and use it to kind of shake up or remix our instruction so that it is it's serving us and serving our students in the best way possible. So what we're going to do here is, if you can, and if you're on the document, you don't have to, but if you're on the document, click on this word here. So where it says tell me here, if you are on the collaborative notes, it is this Answer Garden link right here. What I'd like you to do is click on that, and I will come back to the link, so don't worry. But I want you to type in one word that tells me how you feel about using instructional technology with EL. So one word. Again, we're in this Answer Garden link. You can click there, copy and paste that. If you're in the document, you can go here. If you're just joining us, you can jump in or kind of sit back and wait for a second. We're writing one word that describes how we feel about using tech with ELs. And in Answer Garden, what's nice is as answers come in, you can refresh and they come in as a word cloud. So words that are getting used more often are larger, and words that are used less often are smaller. So these tiny ones are usually used once. Some of these are used twice. I'll refresh again to see what new ones came in. There we go. So this is good. We're just doing well here. Let's refresh one more time. So Answer Garden is a nice tool to kind of get the feel of a room. I like to use it to kind of see it's like for one word answers. Because once you do a couple word answers, phrases get to be a little tricky. So I like giving prompts that require a one word answer, and we can kind of see, so helpful, excited, engaging, uneasy, confident, good. So we're getting some answers there about how people are feeling. I'm going to show you how to create one because it's so easy. Once you're at answergarden.ch, you're going to click this plus sign. Here you're going to click your topic, or you're going to write your topic. I scroll through. Depending on what the prompt is, give 20 characters or 40 characters as a limit. I usually do 20 because it makes people really think about their answer and be succinct. And I scroll all the way down and hit create. And then you have an Answer Garden ready to go. And you can take that link, copy it, and then paste it in a browser or give it to students. So that's Answer Garden, just to get us a little bit, kind of get us thinking a little bit. I'm going to go back to our home page. This is where we're going to be the whole session. And we're going to go to the next box, which is Explore. So the way I've structured today is I've structured this webinar in the form of a hyperdoc. What a hyperdoc is it's a digital, it's a digital lesson outline or lesson plan that is self-paced for students, so students can go through it at their own pace, but it encourages communication, collaboration, critical thinking, all of those, the 4 C's that we talk about. So we're going to be looking at the tools, but in the form of a hyperdoc. At the end of this, I'm not really super invested if you like hyperdocs or if you want to make one, or I'm not in the, right now we're not worried about teaching about hyperdocs, right? Just like we don't teach about, using paper and pencil. It's a method of getting you the information. So we're going to be looking at these tools and strategies, but in order for them to make sense, in order for you to see how they work in context, I needed to be able to package them in a way that was authentic. So I package them in this hyperdoc. I'm okay if you don't use hyperdocs and you pick and choose the tools and strategies you want. That's the purpose of this. So I preface the workshop by saying that because in the past I've gotten comments saying like, well, I didn't like the hyperdocs and I want to use them. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. I'm more concerned with you seeing the tools, but rather than show you, here's a tool and here's what it does, but not show you how it could work in context and how it can work with English learners, I don't think is very helpful. So anyway, that's my preface. So you're going to see a lot of tools. I'm going to go quickly through a lot of this information. Feel free to type in the chat box if you have questions. If I can, I will stop to address them. If not, I will go through later and try to address them. If you have a question that maybe isn't super time sensitive, but it's something you're just thinking about, you can write that on the in the notes section, and I can come back and I can come back and address that. I think we lost the notes. So here we are. Let's make that a little bit bigger. And then you guys can take your notes here. One last time, I'm going to put the links in the chat box. And then we'll be on our way. Okay. There we go. Okay, so what I'd like you to do for the next about 15 minutes, I am going to have you kind of explore the landscape. So whenever I gave students a new tool, a new, kind of device or a new website or a new something, I always gave them time to play around with it because people are excited when they see something new. So I'm going to give you time to explore, to look at some things, maybe make some notes on what you want to learn. And then when we come back, we can go from there and use that information to kind of guide where we're going, because I want this to be really responsive to your needs. So what I'd like you to do is I'm going to give you 15 minutes and I'm going to mute myself and I'm going to turn off my camera so you don't feel like I'm staring at you the whole time. And I'm going to let you explore these tools. So here is our toolbox we're going to look at. Here is the link if you need to copy and paste it. I'm going to show you what it is, but I will come back to these directions. So if you let me actually put this in the box right now. Okay. All right. And then one more time, here is the link to the notes. Okay. So here we are in our toolbox. What you're going to do, here we go, is during this 15 minutes, I'm going to have you kind of look through, click on any of the tools that look interesting. These are tools to create. These are tools to connect and collaborate. These are tools for critical thinking. So go through these, look at whichever ones you want. I've also linked some resources that I've created. So here's this is a virtual field trip journal that uses Google Street View. This is a little trick I just learned recently about using Google Slides to reveal secret words. And this is the remote learning menu that that I showed earlier, and then the accompanying blog post. So toolbox, any of these resources, take 15 minutes to look at them. I'm going to turn off my camera and my microphone, but I will stay here and I'll be able to answer questions in the chat box. Okay, any questions? Feel free to ask or to write them in the chat box right now. Trying to click on the tools, let's see. It says delete. Okay, hold on, let me. try to figure out what's going on. Sometimes, you know, it's early in the morning. Google doesn't want to work. Try refreshing it. I wonder if that's it. I haven't changed it. Let's see. Is it working for everyone? Tools to create doesn't have any links. Okay. So here, let me try typing or copying and pasting that one. Let's see what we got going on here. So I'm not sure if why that's not working for some people. So maybe click to present. That would help if you click to that. I don't want to. It's coming. If that's not working, our workaround is going to have to be for right now to click on anything that's working. If it's not working, feel free to click these links or anything down here to kind of take a look at it. And then I will, I'll turn off my camera and mute myself, and then I will quickly put all of those links in a list and put them in there for you. So in the meantime, if you could look at any of the other links, that'd be great. And I will, if only if you're having trouble. If you're not having trouble, go for it. And then I will make a list. So let's do that. Let's make that our workaround plan for right now. If you're having trouble with any of the links, skip those for right now. And I am going to, and click on anything else, and I am going to try to fix that quickly. Okay? Thanks, guys. I'll be back in about 15 minutes. take about 3 more minutes and then we'll come back together. All right, so let's come back together. You will have access to this after this webinar. I will make sure that those links work, but I did write or I typed the links into the chat box as a workaround for right now, but I will go back and make sure and see what's going on with that. I'm not really sure. I used this just a couple weeks ago and it was fine, and I haven't used it since. So, I mean, I probably did something, but for right now, I can't figure out what that is. Okay, so in your time exploring, I'm actually gonna see if we had notes on anything. While you were exploring, why don't you take a minute and write on the, type in the chat box any of the tools you wanted to learn more about or talk about. So I'll give you a second to do that, or any other questions you may have. Okay, I'm just writing down some of these so I remember. Okay. So what we're going to do now, is go through some of these, and I'm going to show you how they could, examples of how they could work in context. So let's take a look. So this is for some people had questions about the virtual field trip. And so this is one I created because I like using Google Street View. And I like using Google Arts and Culture, which we're going to see. So I created this little field trip journal. And right now it's a PDF, so it would have to be printed out. But what I did was, they're just regular pages that have 50 different locations around the world. And students could draw a picture, they could write something. And this was designed primarily to strengthen that link between oral language and writing. So a lot of times we see visuals as the beginning of something, but we never see them, or we rarely see them as something comprehensive enough to be their own instructional tool. And so what I've done is find really interesting and visually kind of engaging locations around the world. And it could be used a lot of different ways. These could be used individually, but how I would probably use them is to find a location. So let's say we're all going to use Google Arts and Culture. We're all going to go to the Taj Mahal, and lead students through explaining what they're seeing, right? So we're expanding vocabulary. We're attaching words to images. So here we're standing on the top of the Taj Mahal, and we can look around and we can talk about the colors, the shapes, the people, the weather, the height. We can talk about the location. So I would lead students through kind of brainstorming a lot of vocabulary and just talking about what they're seeing, and then have them write about what they're seeing. So make that connection between the oral language and the writing. So you're strengthening the students' oral language, you're giving them more background experience, because now they're seeing the world. So now if someone starts to talk about the Taj Mahal, they have a picture in their head instead of nothing. So that's really how I kind of designed that field trip thing. And I think it could be used in a lot of different ways, kind of however it fits into instruction. And now, since we're in Google Arts and Culture, I can show you a couple things here. Most of the Street View things I got from Google Arts and Culture. Google Arts and Culture, and it's artsandculture.google.com. And I will put that in the chat box. And give me a second, there might be someone in the waiting room. Okay. All right. So Google Arts and Culture is a partnership Google has with nearly every museum in the world, it feels like. And so you can go through exhibits, you can walk through museums, you can see primary artifacts from different time periods. And it's just so much. I'm going to show you some other examples of how you can use it. But in this example, I looked at some places that I like. Let's do this. I think Palace of Versailles is one of the places in the field trip thing. So I would just go to look at different places, and then at the bottom they'll have different museum views. And so if you see that little yellow peg man, that means there's a museum view. So now we can walk through the Palace of Versailles, go through the Hall of Mirrors, and if we turn at the right place, students and us, we can see the Google guy rolling his Google cart down the hallway, taking the 360 pictures for us. And so that we have that guy to thank for giving us beautiful images of the ceilings, and we can go all the way around. So that's where I got most of my museum images from, or the links to the tours from Google Arts and Culture. And that's not all you can do. They have so much more. You can search by artist, medium, historical events, historical figures. If you search by historical figures, you can look at, you can find things and different times you're maybe studying. Then you can find primary artifacts, photos, letters people wrote, Sometimes there'll be videos, but it's a really nice, comprehensive place to find really anything having to do with art or history. We'll come back and see other ways to look at it. So that was the kind of how I thought about the virtual field trips. I may build that out later, but for right now, I think it's kind of interesting to, you know, especially when students are, and all of us are sheltering in place, it's nice to go visit the world somehow. Okay, I'm gonna hop on over to some of these hyperdocs, and we're gonna walk through some of them. So if you see on this that there's something called a screencast, that means that I've recorded a little video where I walk through the that particular hyperdoc and show the tools. So this is being recorded right now, this webinar. But if you wanted to say like, oh, I forget how that compare contrast one went, you can watch a little screencast there. Okay, so this is an example of putting some tools together for younger students. Especially when we're teaching remotely, it's, you know, we want younger students to be able to do the work themselves. We don't want their parent to have to sit with them all day and do kindergarten for them. So this, I think, gives a kind of a good balance there. So here, students start by watching a little video on YouTube about Veterans Day. Then they go and they can make a calendar in Starfall. I've got a lot of windows open, so sometimes my internet doesn't like me very much. So here's the calendar. And then students can go into Explore American Symbols in a thing link. And what a thing link is essentially an interactive poster. So you upload a picture and then you put these little dots there, and you can, with each dot, you can link a picture, a website, an article, you can link a video, you can type text to explain things. So for this one, this teacher, so for the bald eagle, she put a pin on the bald eagle, and that goes to the San Diego Zoo, an article. On the Statue of Liberty, there's a video about the Statue of Liberty. And this is an old hyperdoc, so it's not being maintained, but a BrainPop video on the Statue of Liberty. So this is, so ThingLink is an interactive way, like an interactive poster. So it's nice to organize links that way. And if we can log into mine, I have examples there. Not entirely sure why I wasn't logged in, but here we go. So these are ones I've made. There we go. So this is one I made for a different workshop. I created this infographic, and then I linked I put all my links in categories next to them, and I color coded them. So all the blue ones are infographic based, all the greens are avatar based, the red is digital storytelling, and we have yellow is blogging. So this is, okay. Hold on one second. Can you still hear me? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, good. I got a scary message saying that I was being logged off. So, whew, that was kind of where you lose your heart and it falls into your stomach. If that were to happen and I got kicked off, just give me 2 minutes and I'd be right back. So I'm not trying to leave. Okay, thank you so much for responding. It's very easy to, let's see, let's try to make this a little, okay, let's edit this one. So how this works in editing, so you can see kind of all the little ones I have here. I would just click wherever I want the dot, and I can make that look, you can use any of these. I am a huge color coder. That's what I love to do. And so let's say I wanted this to go to, nope. All right, this is, okay, there we go. All right, this is really giving me fit. Let's delete that one. So I could put a link, I could link to like YouTube, or I could link to a Wikipedia article, or I could link to anything, any kind of link. I can definitely share that quick slide with you. I will do that after the webinar. It's really just links to websites. It's not examples of anything, and most of them we're going to go through, but I can definitely share that with you. So you can kind of see there's a lot of options there. If you play around with it, it's a really nice way to organize things. You can use the color coding to organize by like language proficiency level. So all the red dots, are things for beginners. All the green dots are for intermediate students. And all the blue dots are for higher students with higher proficiency levels. And then the students don't have to know those codes, just you. And so then you can assign, like, you can pretend it's random, but it's really not random. So you could say, I want you to work on the red dots today, you to work on the blue dots today. And so that way everybody's working from the same resource, and there's not that kind of separation. So that's one way of doing things. And then this is just a paint example of making a little art project, and this is ABC. Okay, so that's our first one, and I'm going to tell you in the description for this webinar, it does say it's fast-paced, and that's not a joke. I go fast because I want to show you a lot of things in the hopes that some of them work for you and you can walk away with them. Some of the things, at some point you'll say, my brain is on overload, it's too much, and that's okay. You can just sit back, relax, let everything process, and then come back and look at some of this stuff. So I'm not expecting you to turn around tomorrow and use 85 new things. But I do want to show you a wide breadth. So I have a workshop where we show that the one from that infographic, that's where I show a couple tools and go really in depth. This one, I show a lot of tools kind of at the surface level and show you how they could be used, and then we move on real fast. Okay, here's comparing and contrasting. This one, we are going to, I'm making sure that I hit all of your questions. So for this was kind of a rework of a lesson that I used to do when I was in the classroom, and it was on the kind of the theme of identity and using and being proud of your name. So the books that we read in here is Chrysanthemum, which is a mouse whose name is Chrysanthemum, and she kind of struggles with being proud of her name because it's a little different. And the name jar is a similar theme. It's a Korean girl named Yoonhye, and she is embarrassed about her name as well because it's not what she calls an American name. So what I ask students to do is go to a Padlet and take a selfie and tell me about their name. So this would be like the first day, because I saw kids in 30-minute groups. So the first day we would do this. And a Padlet is a digital bulletin board. And so here's my example. I took a selfie, and I chose the selfie of the day I found my Coke bottle with my name on it because it was an important day for me, and it's about my name, so I like it. And so I write about this. Then students can click somewhere and they can write their name. So if their name is, let's see, I'll use my dog's name, Ivy. And then if my dog was filling this out, she would say, I was named after the Wrigley Field Ivy. Okay, well, I am really struggling on the typing part today. There we go. I have to keep my computer up so high, that feels weird when I type. Okay, and then she could take a picture here. She could upload a picture, or she could link to something. She could upload a picture. She already has, this is why I like it for English learners. You could also record your voice. So if your student maybe isn't as comfortable typing or writing, have them video themselves saying it, have them record themselves saying it, and then maybe work on the typing if you're super into the typing part. But students could also draw something that if they needed to. So there's a lot of access points for English learners here that are really, really helpful. So they could write, they could talk, they could film themselves, they could draw. So it really gives you a lot of options to include everyone. Padlet used to be completely free. Now it's free. I think you can have 3 boards. So you can use a board, you can have 3 boards going at the same time. And if you wanted to create another one, you'd have to get rid of one of the 3. So for the free version, you can have 3 boards. It used to be so many things I love start charging me. Okay. And then students, so after that, so the next day we would read Chrysanthemum, and students, you know, sometimes they need to hear a story twice, 3 times, 100 times, and you don't have that time. And so one thing that I find is very helpful is to go through or search YouTube for read alouds. And now that most schools are meeting virtually in most states, so many authors, so many teachers are recording read alouds. So you could probably find one, and you can find them in other languages too. So that's what we would do. We would read Chrysanthemum, but if the student wanted to take it home and read, or they wanted to, you know, read with their parents the book, they could listen along. Then the next day we would do the same with the name jar. So that's a link to the name jar. And then the next day we would use Flipgrid to talk about how Chrysanthemum and Yunhai are the same. So how Flipgrid works. Let's use this. So Flipgrid, I will show you from a teacher point of view what Flipgrid looks like. And Flipgrid is a video discussion board, is the easiest way of saying it. So if you've ever done a discussion board for like a class or something, this is a video version of it. So these are all of my boards. I use these with adults a lot. And let's pick one where there are videos. Here we go. So this is a workshop I did in March, and you can write the prompt here. You can give some tips. It will read the prompt aloud to students. And it sounds only a little like a robot. So it reads to you. It has some grammar options, text preferences, different things. So that's really a nice modification that you can make for some students. And then here's what you see as a teacher. You see all of the initial responses, and then these are people who have responded to or replied to that student. What it looks like on the student end is this. You have the prompt, you have all of your little hints and pictures, and then you can click to log in. So to log in, students would need a Google account or a Microsoft account, or what you can do is share this link with them, the guest code link. And the guest link allows anyone to record without an email address. And you can set it so that you moderate the comments, so you could watch them first. But so that way anyone can reply. So here's my colleague Olivia, and she recorded her thing, and then you can see who responded to her. And then if I wanted to, I could reply to her. I'd have to log in as a teacher though. But I could also come down here, see hers, and I could comment on hers this way and give her some feedback here from the teacher point of view. So that's nice. Now, if you're not in love with Flipgrid yet, you might be in like a second. And I'm going to apologize if you can hear my dog going crazy in the background. She likes to have barking fits sometimes when she doesn't get attention. So if you're not a huge fan of Flipgrid yet, you will be. So let's go back to, okay. All right. All right, here we go. There we go. I was trying to get back to my dashboard. There we go. Okay, so now I'm back here in my dashboard. And Flipgrid has a lot of great guides too. They have a remote learning guide that they made that's really great. They have a getting started guide. They have just a lot of help. But one of my favorite things is Grid Pals. And so Grid Pals is like Pen Pals, but with Flipgrid, so you can connect with other people. all of these little green dots are teachers. We're looking at United States right now. They're teachers in the United States who want to connect. And so it takes a while to load because there are literally so many. And you can search by grade level. You can also search for students who are English learners. And so these are all those English learner classrooms. Now, you could also take a little trip across the pond. Let's see who's around here. So we have some other teachers whose students are learning English, and you could connect with them. So this is one of my favorite tools, this Grid Pals, especially since, again, when you're stuck at home, it's really, you want to see the world. You want to pretend you're outside exploring. And this is a great way to connect to people, especially when students aren't having all of the time to connect socially with their peers because they're at home. Okay. And then finally, students would use ChatterPix, which is an app that you can take a picture and draw a mouse and then have the student talk. I'm going to show you a different example in a second for that. And then finally, an example of how you could like facilitate book talks virtually. So if you were doing books about being proud of who you are, you could create a Google slide and then have students tell about a book where someone's proud of who they are. So this is my example, the sandwich swap. So I did a picture and a little summary. Another example I did is one green apple. And then my third example is my name is Maria Isabel. And in this one, did a little video. And then if you were to keep going, you'd see other examples teachers have made in past workshops. So this is a nice way. And you can see students who just white background it like I did and put a picture in the text, or students who got done with that and said, you know what, I'm going to add some stripes because it's bad case of the stripes. So that is what, so that's an option, having students kind of facilitate a book talk this way. And then other students could go back and make comments if they'd like. All right, let's move on. I like this example, and actually I've been in contact with someone who did this example after the last time I did this workshop, and it worked out really nice with her students. They kind of loved the activity and wanted, and like immediately asked to do more. And so in this activity, it's like a dialogue activity. So I went into Google Arts and Culture and I found some pictures that I thought were interesting that would kind of elicit a reaction. And I did an example here. So I picked one of the pictures from Google Arts and Culture and I put a couple word bubbles around. And then I added some, their, like what they would be saying. So I feel really connected to you. Me too. Why do you think? And then, so that's my example. And then I gave students a bunch of different pictures and I said, in the directions it says pick one and put it on the slide and then add word bubbles or thought bubbles. And so if a student picked this one, they could make it bigger and then they could move some of those thought bubbles. Same for here. So to show you where thought bubbles are, you go to shape, call outs, and then you have four options there. You can draw them there. And so you could pick, I picked art, but you could also go and take pictures from different events in history if you wanted to, and like imagine what historical figures were saying. You could do this. You could take a picture with your phone of like illustrations in a book and put them in here and do what characters were saying. So this is a good way to kind of get to talk about emotion, to talk about characters' feelings, to talk about motivation. This is, and so it's fun. This is the activity, and actually the person who did it was my aunt. She's a teacher, and she said her kids then kept asking for more assignments. And she said, like, I don't know what happened, like, I don't know what you did, but they are really into it. Okay, the next one is something I like, but it's a little mini version because we're going fast today. This is a mini breakout. So a breakout is kind of an activity. It's a reverse escape box. And so, or escape room. So in an escape room, you're locked in trying to get out. And a breakout, you're out, but you're trying to get in a box. And so I just kind of made a quick one. This isn't one that requires a lot of like super critical thinking, but I wanted just a story to tell so students would understand the game. And so I said, their scenario is their teacher said that if they can finish these area related activities in 30 minutes, they could have an extra recess. So good luck. And then what they have here is a Google form. And since this is a digital breakout, they have to enter the codes here to unlock the lock. And so then they start going. And so it says, in this video, the children are trying to figure out the area of the land. They eventually figure it out by dividing the land into blank. And so students have to watch this little video. And this video comes from ClassHook, which just has a lot of like engaging clips of videos for schools and teachers. And it's really exciting. So this one is, so what I did here is I went to just ClassHook and I said, okay, I need a little video for students about, let's see, actually, I went to browse subjects and I said I needed one about math and geometry. And I wanted to see what they had in geometry. And I could have filtered more, but I kind of looked and right away, here they are talking about perimeter and area. I could go and look for things that would help in ESL. So these are nice short clips that are meant to kind of be used as hooks for students. And so you don't have to watch like 1,000 YouTube videos. They really kind of break it down nicely. So that's where I got that video from. And then, so the answer actually is squares. So if you were to put in something else like triangle and you tried to leave, it would say try again. So you would have to say, and you know it's 6 letters because it says it here. The 4-letter, let's get rid of this guy. The 4-letter lock, you're trying to buy your mom a blanket. All these blankets cost the same. They're down here. And you want to get her the biggest one. So here are 4 shapes and you have to figure out the area and you have to put them in order. And so you would have to put the letters in order. So like A, B, C, D. And then here, the color lock, it says all the information you need is above. And this is just one to get students kind of thinking. They would have to know that it's green, purple, blue, red, because that's the order of the shapes. And then this is a rebus that puzzle that goes and it says area equals base times height. Yeah, so then they would answer that, and then if they finished all of it, they would win within the time. So just a little, and you can do a little mini breakout with anything. That was just one I made for something else quickly. Okay, let's take a look at this one. Okay. Let's look at this. So this is a Hopes and Dreams HyperDoc. The version above it is a Google Doc, but I changed it to slides because I thought it kind of broke it up and chunked it a little easier for language learners. So this would be at the beginning of the school year, thinking about your goals. So what this uses is a lot of YouTube videos and a lot of using charts as kind of, or a table as a way to give students a place to respond. So if you had, I'll erase this, but a blank slide. So I like to use tables to give my students a place to write. So that's what I did here. And then I can put the category header in there. I can make sure that this is whatever color I want it to be inside. And then tell my students, to write in this box. And that way it gives them like a clear place to put their thoughts. There we go. So you see there's a lot of little videos there. This one I think is, yeah, primarily YouTube, and using those tables is what I wanted to show here. Okay. Let's take a look at this. This one, the sound hyperdoc, is something that a student of mine created for a class, and it uses a tool called Insert Learning. And Insert Learning is an extension that you would need in Chrome. So I'll show you what it looks like though. So here, you have to start by watching a video, and that's just a YouTube video. And then you're going to explore further by reading this article. So you would click on this link, and this would take you to a link. And so this is a website that has been amplified using Insert Learning. And so what Insert Learning is, and it's this little IL extension here, it allows you to take any website and insert comments, highlights, videos, anything in there. This needs to give it a second. So it allows you to kind of do all of this. So here she's inserted a video. I think these are examples I've done where you can, if you want students to pay attention there, you can put a little sticky note. You can insert a question here. You can insert discussion, not that one. You can highlight text and enter a comment, and then you can change the color. So it gives you something to help. So what she has done is she's taken, let me get rid of this. She uses this to read to her students. So she said she wanted to use this website for students, but she said in the past she wouldn't have used it because she knew a good chunk of her students, especially her English learners, couldn't participate. They couldn't read this on their own. And so what she did with this is she just recorded something, and she kept her camera closed, and she recorded herself reading chunks of the text. And then she read this chunk of the text. And so this way it allowed all of the students to be able to hear the information and participate. Now, the thing with Insert Learning, I think it's pretty neat, but you have to have the extension, and any student who wants to do the activity has to have the extension. So you would have to, any student would have to go into the Chrome Web Store. You can see that right up here. And you would have to search for, now if you had an administrator who could push out extensions to a group of kids, that would be one thing. And then this is what Insert Learning looks like. But it might be hard if you had to like walk people through, walk a large number of students through installing the extension. So that's the only downside I see with how to get it, is that not only do you have to have it, but any student you want to complete it also has to have Insert Learning. But if you can manage that and figure out how to do that, it's a nice way to make text more interactive and more appropriate for your English learners. And so after they listened, she gave them a little table and said, like, what sounds do you hear right now? And then she put the students' names here, and then so they knew where they had to answer. And she did it a few times, and that was the end. So Insert Learning is a nice option, but it may not be the best option now because you have to install an extension, and it would take a little bit of learning how that works. But it's there anytime you want to look at it. Okay, so let's take a look at, I want to make sure I hit the ones you were asking for. I'm going to skip to this one for right now. We'll come back. Yeah, I think it would be easier inside the school. I definitely think insert learning would be easier once we're back in person. That was just my personal opinion as a teacher. It seems like it'd be a little hard to manage with students in their houses. Okay, so here, this is a hyperdoc I created about visiting the Egyptian pyramids. And what it does is we go through a tour like we saw earlier. We walk around the pyramids and we see so if your district uses Microsoft, most things can't. I mean, everything I'm showing can be used, or everything I've shown so far can be used in a browser. So as long as you have a browser, you can use it. So Chromebooks, if you have laptops or tablets that are Microsoft based, that's fine. Flipgrid uses Microsoft as a login. Insert Learning uses Microsoft as a login. Most use both. I'm trying to think of exceptions, but I can't at the moment. If something comes up, I'll point it out. But I am pretty careful to select things that are platform agnostic, and so they don't require one way or the other, except like Google Docs and Google Slides would be the exception. Those are Google. So we would walk around. I like doing this one because you can see camels parked right next to cars if you walk around, and I think that's fun. So once students walk around the pyramid, they can go to Blabberize. Now I'm gonna try this. Blabberize is giving me trouble, yeah, the other day. So what Blabberize is it allows you to take a picture and draw the mouse and then talk, and it looks like, in my example, it looks like the pyramids are telling you why you should come visit them. I can't figure out why Blabberize isn't working for me this week. It was working for me all the other weeks, but such is the life of a teacher that uses technology, we will persevere. The other thing, Build with Chrome was a partnership between Google and Lego, that you could build things with Legos, and but then they decided not to fund it anymore. So what I am going to show you is two things. One is SafeShare. And so SafeShare is nice if you can't use YouTube. You can upload, you can copy a YouTube video URL and put it in SafeShare. So it takes out the ads before and after, and makes it a little safer for students to use. And so this is 25 facts about pyramids. And then what students can do is call this number, which is my Google Voice phone number, and answer the question. So Google Voice, if you're in a Google account, you're using your school account, you might have to have your administrator turn it on, or your Google administrator turn it on. But what it is Google will give you a phone number with any area code, and you can use it. You can link it to your email or to your actual phone number if you want to. You can have students or have anyone call you, and it will leave a message in your Google Voice account. So I used it as a classroom teacher. Every week I recorded, I changed my voicemail message to record an oral language prompt. And sometimes they were kind of, more easygoing, more social language. Sometimes they were based on an academic concept we were practicing in school. So so every week they knew they had to call my Google Voice number by Thursday, listen to the prompt and respond. And so that was my way of kind of assessing their oral language and giving them practice for oral language development, because it mimicked how real conversations are, where you don't know what the next person is going to say. So my students would call me from home, and they'd listen to the first few times they'd listen to the prompt and then hang up until I showed them that I know if they do that because it records that. So then students would listen, and then you would hear a lot of, okay, all right. And then they would start to answer. And so they got better and better at it. And they really liked calling the Google Voice phone numbers. And students who didn't really have access to a phone because their parents had the cell phone or something at work, they could come in a little early to school or stay for 2 minutes during recess and make a call from my classroom phone, so we made it work. But what I imagine it doing here is you can ask, they're going to be watching a video about pyramids, you can ask them a question about pyramids. So make your voicemail message, what was the coolest thing you learned about pyramids? Tell me. And then they could call, listen to your voicemail message, and then after the beep, they could tell you the coolest thing they remember about pyramids. So the Google Voice is a nice way to have students be able to practice oral language, or even just keep in touch with you so that they don't have to know your cell phone number though. Google Voice, thank you for giving me a prompt there. It's voice.google.com. And so yes, it's through Google, you get the phone number through Google, but it's a phone number, anyone can call it. So it doesn't really have anything to do with platforms. It's just who's given you that free number that you can use. So actually let me show you what it would look. Let me see if you can see this. Can you see that new screen with kind of the rainbow swishes? Let me know if you can see it. No? Okay. Give me 1 second and I will share this screen with you, a new screen. Okay, there we go. Now I had to do that because my Google Voice is in my personal Google account. Because at the time I created it, it was several years ago before my district adopted Google. So this is what it looks like from the inside. You can adjust your settings here, and I always adjust my settings so it's attached to nothing. So if someone calls that phone number, it doesn't go to my email, it doesn't go to my cell. The voicemails just get stored in this account. If you wanted them to, if you wanted to have your phone ring every time, you could. So what it sounds like is, let's go back to that. Here's my voicemail. So you can see all of the greetings I had are past ones. So it's a question about the museum we went to. What would you do if you had $1 million? What would you change in the school? Something about the Wright brothers, apparently. Here's the pyramids prompt. So those are all the prompts I kept. And so when the students would call, it would ring 3 times. And then when the voicemail started, it would be that prompt. And then what you would hear is these are the students. So these are from a while ago. Oh, no, wait, those are adults. Let's do this. Here we go. Okay, so she's talking and oh, sorry, there's no sound. Apologies. Let's see. That would probably help, right? The sound part of it. Oh, that's okay. So what it does is it shows, thank you. It shows their, what is the word I'm saying for it? It shows their, like, who responded. You can listen, and I had started, oh, there we go. I had, let me share the correct screen with you. Okay, here we go. I had a protocol with my students where they knew they had to say their first name first, and then they had to answer the question. So that was what our protocol was, because my students, they called from different phone numbers each time. So I wasn't going to memorize their phone numbers. So they had to say their first name when they called. And a lot of times they were calling from school. So I wouldn't have known the difference there. If your students are calling from a constant number, then you can create contacts, and you can create contacts and say, like, this phone number is little Susie. And So you would see it, but my students just called from different phone numbers, like their cousins and their aunts and their parents. And so it was a little too hard for me to keep track of that. But yes, you could create contacts if they're calling from the same phone number each time. Okay, so yeah, so for Google Voice, it's just like a regular phone. So you know how when you call someone and they don't answer, they say, hi, leave a message after the beep. Instead of that message, it would say, hi, tell me what you would do with $1 million. And then they would respond. And then I could go through. There's also an app you can get. So I would do it when I was just, like I had some free time, I would just, pop in my earbuds and start to listen to their responses. So that is what they would do. Oh, hold on. I don't know if I'm showing you that. There we go. How about that? All right. Okay. I want to make sure. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to jump around. I want to make sure that we hit some of these before I go back so they answer your questions or the ones that you wanted to talk about. Okay, so this is a hyperdoc that I made, and it's highlighting non-print text. And there we go. And so we've already talked about Google Arts and Culture. But what I want to show you is the New York Times Learning Network. This is a really great resource. Let's go there. And the resource I like to use in this one, let's see, sorry. Can you let me know, and can you hear me? I want to make sure that that's working. Yes, okay. Okay, thank you. So if you can't hear it, you might have to refresh, but I wanted to make sure it wasn't something on my end. So what the New York Times Learning Network is, it looks like this, the whole thing. And it's primarily for students who are a little bit older, but it's using the news as a resource. They have picture writing prompts over here. They have like articles of the day. I prefer this multimedia section. That's what I think is very interesting. And it's what's going on in this picture. And what they do is every Monday, they give you a picture with no context. And it gives students some guiding questions to think about. But it just asks them what's going on in this picture. So students could do this independently. I like to do it with my students together. So we would talk on Monday, we would say like, well, what's going on? What are we seeing? And we would talk and build that language, that background knowledge. And then every Thursday, so we won't know about this one, but every Thursday they come and at the bottom, they'll tell us what the context actually is. So what article it went with, what actually is going on in that picture. So we can see this was last week. Excuse me. So you can see this is what they showed on Monday. And then on Thursday, we saw, this is the ROTC returns to New York City's college more than 4 decades after removal. So this is from a 2013 article, and then it's the original caption. So there's what's going on in this picture is really interesting. We also have, let's keep going back. We also have what's going on in this graph. And so that's very similar, but they give you a graph with limited context. And then you have to say, what is this graph trying to communicate? And then it's at the end of the week, they tell you what the graph is communicating. So you can see there. So it's really good for visual literacy, both of these. And also just developing oral language, being able to describe things, expanding vocabulary and background knowledge. It's a good website to kind of go through and see what resources they have. And so one thing I do want to point out is that I'm trying to show you a range of tools that can be used with younger students and older students. But just because I said that the learning network tends to skew for older students doesn't mean that if you have younger students, it doesn't apply to you. You could definitely look at that and say, okay, I like that idea of what's going on in that picture. I'm going to find a picture now and do the same strategy with my students, right? And so the same for something that we looked at earlier that was I developed for younger students. So maybe the compare and contrast things. Maybe you don't want to do that with chrysanthemum in the name jar. Maybe you want to do a similar hyperdoc looking at the characters in To Kill a Mockingbird, and you still want to use Padlet and Flipgrid for discussion. So always my goal when I show tools is to show tools that can be used with a wide range of students in a wide, like in a lot of different content areas. I don't want, as a teacher, I didn't like to use 45,000 tools in a day with students. I like to be able to have my go-tos that I could use in a lot of situations. And some of these were invented after I left the classroom. So that's sad for me, but some of these, like I use the same ones all the time, but I use them in different ways. So I'm trying to show that even though I'm giving the example that might be at 1 grade level, try to think how it could be spun or how you could take that idea and make it more appropriate for your student. Okay, let me make sure I got to the end of this guy. Okay, so GeoGuessr is another tool that I loved. Excuse me. And then it used to be free, then they started charging for it and broke my heart. The only one that says it's never going to break my heart is Flipgrid, who has gone on record saying they will be free forever. And so that's why I feel like I can invest heavily in learning how to use Flipgrid, because they're not going to all of a sudden one day say, you need to pay $100 a year to use this. GeoGuessr went with a paid subscription. You are allowed to, so what GeoGuessr does is it plops you somewhere. So we get 1 free game a day. You used to get 100 free games. So it plops you somewhere in the earth, and it gives you have to use the context clues. You have to use your background knowledge and what you see around you to determine where you are. There we go. And so I always, with my students, gave 2 minutes. I used to create challenges for them, but this would be something that they could do 1 a day. So we look around, right in the chat box, where do you think we are? We could be anywhere in the world. I'm gonna walk down here and see if I can turn around and see this sign. Ooh, that's a good clue. Does that look like a sign from the United States? Nope. So we're probably not in the United States. Does anyone want to write their guess in the chat box? England, maybe? Okay. Oh, they're using metric system, 100 meters. I don't see any languages. Usually they'll block out the license plate so we can't cheat that way. Maybe Germany. So what we do is when we think we got it, we open this little, maybe France. So we're all kind of saying around here, Germany. So we said, okay, Germany. All right, I'm just gonna go near Berlin. That's where we're guessing. We were 1,300 miles from the correct location. So the correct location was in, where are we? In like Russia, near the border of Georgia. Okay. All right. If you have to go now, I thought I said 11 it would end up, but if you have to go now, that's okay. I will send the recording to you. That is all of the, yeah, okay. Oh, that's what I wanted to show with that one. I knew there was a, okay. So also in this one, so GeoGuessr might be a nice tool that students can use while they're remote learning. I used to, when it was free, I used to create a challenge for my students. So everybody would get the same 5 locations and then we would see who got the highest score. But what you can do is if you are on like a Zoom like this with your students, you could easily do that one, your one free quiz a day, and you could practice those inferencing skills. So what do we see? What do we know from our background? So I always had students really justify their claims, because my students would always think that we were where we lived. And so they would say like their street or the country their grandma lives in. And we would say, well, why do you think that? They would have to say like, well, the trees that I see in that picture are similar to the trees that are by her house. Or they would have to really justify and practice that inferencing skills, so that when they have to inference later, either in writing or orally, they have developed those skills. So Canva is a nice tool for teachers or students. For teachers, it's nice because you can modify text that's not appropriate for students. So I asked one of my friends to send me the text she hates reading with her kids, with her students, because it's hard, and she sent me this. And so my colleague turned it into an infographic. She took the same text, but she added pictures. She separated it visually so that it's easier for your brain to digest. Your brain can process pictures considerably faster than it processes text. So it also stores it in 2 different ways. It stores it via text, the information via text, but also it stores it visually, so that you now have 2 pathways to get to that information. So creating infographics might be a good use of time if you if there's something that always kind of trips your kids up and is tricky for them. So Canva, let's go there. So Canva, you create an account. Now it could be with your Google, it could be with your Facebook, it could just be with your email. And then you can create different visuals. So it's a graphic design website for people who are not graphic designers. I am not a graphic designer. My stick people struggle a lot. But what I can do is take a template they give me and input different words and find some clip art. So what I did here was took ideas I had, and this was a different workshop I had done, and I created this a while ago. But I took a layout, and you can see there's most everything's free. You can have a subscription, but it's not necessary. They have so much free stuff. So here's this is the free template I used. All I did, change the text, change the pictures, then I'm done. I'm kind of obsessed with Canva, but I don't have stock in it or anything. So I'm not, I don't get anything out of doing this from Canva, but I've created different things. A lot of times I work with teachers about how to create little, you can put so many articles in someone's mailbox about supporting English learners, and it might go unread, but if you kind of take an article and turn it into a more visually pleasing infographic and hang it in the bathroom, then it might be a little bit more, they might be able to absorb it a lot quicker because you absorb visuals faster. You can copy and paste text into Canva. You could do a screenshot of text and put it into Canva if you wanted to. Canva is free. There's a paid subscription. There's Canva Pro, but you don't need it. It has so much that's already free, and they have tons of free photos, grids, frames, illustrations, everything. So what it looks like when you go into this, so let's say I wanted to create something new. I wanted to create an infographic. What it does is it gives me, starts blank. So you could start with a blank one, and I've done that before. But let's say I wanted to use this template. I could take this template let's make it a little bit bigger. And then I could say I wanted to do like visual support. I wanted to give teachers just like a list of ways to visually support ELs. Let's see, let's get rid of this guy. And then I can play around with all of this. And I could change the text, I could change the image. Let's say if I wanted a different picture, maybe I want to use a graph, maybe I wanted to use this guy. So maybe I wanted to use, I wanted to show how charts could be used. So I can get this clip art of a chart and use it. So you can really kind of explore and make it your own. In that, in the non-print texting here, this goes to a folder of infographics that a group of teachers I was working with made. So you can see how they took the templates and turned them into categories of support for English learners. You can change everything, background color, everything. You could also start from scratch and make it. So you can see what some examples of what other teachers did. A lot of Canva is like, the time is like playing around with it and seeing what you can do. You can really make anything in there. And so I liked it to make timelines or to take, if this science book wasn't appropriate for my ELs, how could I take the information about states of matter and present it in a way that they'd understand? So that's why I like Canva for a lot of things. Okay, so that's where I'm going to stop now. Some of these we won't see. I wanted to make sure that we got to the ones that you had asked for at the beginning, but feel free to go through any of the remaining hyperdocs after we are done. But I want to make sure I have enough time to explain the independent assignment. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and show you a few more things. So one is where you can go for other like resources like this. So Facebook has, again, I'm not, learning how to do a hyperdoc isn't the purpose of this. I'm just using hyperdocs as a way to present these tools. But if you are into hyperdocs, you think that might be a way you want to pack in some of your information for students. Facebook has a great hyperdoc group, and it is exploding right now because people are just sharing things like crazy. So people will go in there and say, I have, third grade math, what do you have for me? And people will be like, oh, I made this hyperdoc, and then they'll share it. So it's really a great resource. People are very generous and very creative. And then here is hyperdoc samples. I actually gonna have to check that. They just updated their website, and I want to make sure they didn't change the URL, but I'll check that. And then articles about different ways to use the hyperdocs. And I like these articles because, yeah, they talk about hyperdocs, but they also showcase tools that we talked about and other tools. So that's why I highlighted them there. So you can see this one talks about Flipgrid, ThingLink, Google Drawing, Adobe Spark, Canva. So there are a lot of tools we talked about are featured in these articles. So that's if you want some other kind of creative help on that. So for your activity, this is what you're going to do. You are going to create a hyperdoc or just a lesson activity unit. It doesn't necessarily have to be a hyperdoc, but you're going to create an activity that you're going to be teaching in the future. Now, this could be something that you're going to use with students during remote learning, or you could start to think towards next year and say, when we're all back together, I usually teach this unit or this lesson, and I'd like to kind of think how I can use some of these tools for that. So it could be something you're going to use, more soon or down the line. That's okay. Try to use 3 tech tools and at least 1 new one. So try to incorporate 1 new one that you are looking at. If you are working and you kind of get stuck and you need a question, you can definitely email me, My information is on the collaborative notes. That's my email. So right here, oh, no, right here. That's my email, messig@centermail.org with no E's in center. So that you can always email me anytime. I will be near my computer all day today to kind of field questions from people. So I will get back to you like as soon as I can today and in the next couple days. Okay, so now, so you're going to create either a hyperdoc or some kind of lesson that incorporates 3 different technology tools. That is your assignment in order to get the credit for completing this workshop. And what I'd like you to do is when you're done, 2 things, okay? One is like mandatory you have to do, and one is optional. So the optional one is when you're done, go into our collaborative notes. And oh, I cut this for time, so I don't want to get confused. All right. So this is what we're going to do. So here's the optional thing. Go into collaborative notes and add your work to the list. So you can put your hyperdoc here. You can link to whatever you created here. So I would put, you don't even have to put your name. Put the topic and the grade level, and then put the link here. What that means is, let's say you created this hyperdoc, okay? How we share the link is this. You go into share, then you're gonna make sure you change this. It'll usually say restricted, which is just you can see it. That doesn't help us. It might say just your domain, so your district. That won't help us. You wanna make sure it says anyone with the link is a viewer. Then copy that link by clicking copy link. Then you would go back into the notes and say this is a non-print text one for, or I would say adults. And then I'm going to Control V, or I am going to paste the link right there. That's all you have to do. If you want to make it a hyperlink and change the title, you may, but you don't have to. It's totally fine if you just do that. So that's the optional one. And the reason for this is now we are building a little library of tools and ideas that we can share, right? So that's optional. What's mandatory is that when you're done, you click this to go to the I'm finished form. So the link is here in Reflect, but the link is also right here. It's also right here. So you really can't go too far away from that link. But if something happens, you can't find it, email me. Okay, so here we go. This is what you have to do. You click the I'm finished form, and this is how you're gonna get your credit. You're gonna enter your first name, your last name, email address. Tell me what tools you use. That helps me know, like for next time, what tools I should focus on. And then what's the link to your hyperdoc? Again, you're gonna take that do the same thing. Copy the link there. Then come here and paste it. And then tell me a takeaway that you're leaving with today. When you click submit, it'll trigger an email to go to you, and that email will have the link to the evaluation. Once you finish the evaluation, you will get your evidence of completion of the PD, and you'll have 5 hours then. Okay. Any questions on that? Oh, thank you. The deadline. It is the May 27th. It's 2 weeks. I will show you how to share the link in 1 second. Let me just double check that. I know I wrote it down somewhere and then didn't. Yes, it's the 27th. So let me write that here. So it gives you like 14 full days. Okay. So that is what you have to do. So you definitely have to finish or submit this form when you're done. One more time, anytime you're in a HyperDoc, you're gonna go to share. Make sure it's on anyone with the link. Viewer. Okay. And then copy link. You can use one of my templates, absolutely. One of the links I have in here, hyperdocs.co. This is what, yeah, hyperdocs.co. This is, I have this in the, where is it? This is in the HyperDoc here, the samples, but I have to check. So what they have here is templates for you to use. So if you're looking for more templates, they have them there, and they changed the URL there to keep me on my toes. Okay. So those, you can use my templates. You can do file and make a copy. That's fine. Anything you had here, you can make a copy and enter your own information. That is totally fine. That's in the spirit of sharing. I'm all about that. I didn't even come up with this template. This is from the HyperDocs. I just like how it flows. And then if you want, then there's more information about HyperDocs. If you like that and want to like keep learning about that, you can. Again, this is all due May 27th, but this doesn't have to be a giant, you know, you're not doing a capstone project for a master's degree. Just make sure, you know, make sure you spend about 3-ish hours on it, and then that's it. It doesn't have to be completely finished, or it doesn't have to be polished. It's up to you. So again, this is our activity. You're going to create a lesson or activity or HyperDoc that uses at least 3 tech tools. Okay. All right. So I know that was a lot. I hope your brains are still working at this point. I've had a lot of fun having you in the group today. I'm going to go back to the collaborative notes, and I'm going to give you one more form to sign out. If you could use this form to sign out. There we go. Oh, I only sent it to one person. Hold on. There we go. There's the sign out form. So stay safe, everyone. Thank you very much for coming. I will stay here for a couple minutes. If people have questions, they want to send me a little note, I will respond. And but otherwise, have a great rest of the week, and let me know if you have any questions. You can sign out on the form now. There you go. And this just is for our records so that we can, if the state ever asks, we can have records that when you signed in and when you signed out. Thank you so much. Again, let me know if you have questions. I'm going to be around my computer all day today to answer questions from you. And I will fix that first page in the toolbox. So I'm going to stop the recording now, just so that it can start to process, and then I will add that to this link in the collaborative notes.